Hi, welcome to the Lone Star Dowsers. I am Mary Lindsay Wilson, and this is our March 2026 meeting. And we are in for a
Audio.
treat tonight.
New audio options.
Yeah, if everybody will mute
Audio
themselves, that
options.
would be great. So thank you. Um, so spring is here. The weather's a little bit wild, but when we think of spring, we think of birth, new growth, and gardens all coming together. And so our featured speaker is very attuned to nature and flowers and healing, and um, she has really mastered how to access the wisdom and the support of nature with ease. So, I would like to introduce Cynthia Athina Kemp Scherer, and she is the co-creator of Desert Alchemy flower essences. And she has an amazing story about how she was invited by the Devas of the desert to begin co-creating these flower essences. Um, she's got a pretty amazing resume that you can read about, but I will give you a few highlights. She's an internationally recognized pioneer in the field of flower essences. Um, in 1983, she was in the midst of a transformational life experience, and she was inspired by nature to begin co creating the desert flower essences from the unique desert environment that she lives in. She's in Tucson. And then she formed Desert Alchemy to help provide these flower essences to serve others. She teaches these Desert Alchemy flower essence therapy courses for help, self help, for personal users, professional users. Yeah, I think it's open to everybody. She also facilitates the Flower Essence Circle. It's an opportunity for folks to receive support online in a small group setting. She's the author of 5 books, including Alchemy of the Desert, The Art and Technique of Using Flower Essences, and others that are available in several languages. And Cynthia's website and her classes and things can be found at desert alchemy.com. And she's got a free email newsletter that you can sign up for to learn more about her things. So, having said all that, welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so wonderful to be here with everybody and everybody who will be viewing the video later. We're all one.
Yes, we are all connected. And, as we're all watching, there's a lot of really um, impactful things happening in the world right now. And I think more than ever, we want support with that. We need support. And I think nature provides that. And as dowsers, we're connected to a lot of things. So I think the more tools that we have in our tool bag, the better. My intention is to inspire and educate others to about different tools that they can use to help themselves and help others.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so grateful that flower essences are one of the tools that came into my life. And when they did come into my life, I didn't even know what they were. So, much to my surprise, my destiny unfolded without uh, without my knowing what I was getting into. So, um, I had lived for 10 years on an island in Greece and um, was rather unceremoniously ripped up and planted back here in the United States and wandered around in culture shock, not even thinking anymore in English, but thinking in another language. And yet here I was from here, so I was born here, I was raised here. So anyway, here I was back in the United States in culture shock. And I was driving through the Saguaro National Monument one day because I was actually living on the other side of the Saguaro National Monument. Somehow I found myself out in the middle of the desert renting a house out there. And I was driving in, and all the saguaros were in bloom. And the saguaros are these big cacti that you see behind me. And they had these beautiful white flowers up on the very top of their arms. And all of a sudden, as I was driving and feeling this oneness with nature, I heard a little voice inside of me saying, Cynthia, why don't you make a flower essence? And I thought, oh, that's great. Why not? And then I thought, what is a flower essence? I don't know. I had seen little bottles of Bach flowers that someone had shown me when they were traveling through Greece once, but they couldn't tell me exactly what they were. But that is as much as I knew about what a flower essence was. It was a little bottle with some drops, and I didn't even know what they were for or how they were used, but whatever. So I got all excited, and then I just tamped my enthusiasm back down because it's like, I don't know how to do that. So I kind of forgot about it, but a couple of weeks later, I heard this rat-a-tat-tat rapping on my front door. And I didn't know anyone here yet. I had just moved here. I thought, who in the world is that? And it's like 5:30 in the morning. So what's going on? And I went to the door, opened it up, and there was no one there. And I heard a little flutter, and I looked up, and there was a Gila woodpecker. And that same kind of inner voice arose in me and said, Cynthia, today you're going to make your first flower essence, so get ready. And the woodpecker flew off. And so I was like, okay, now I think I've been out in the desert too long. Either I'm really crazy or maybe this is okay to do. But meanwhile, I decided, I'm not hurting anybody or myself, so I'll just follow what this guidance is that seems to be arising inside me. And
Okay, let me just ask you real quick. Did you have this type of guidance before? I mean, had you heard, the voice and had nature come knocking at your door?
Well, not exactly like that, but when I was very young, probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, I would be out in nature because I was raised out in the woods, on a mountain. And I would hear, oh, pick this flower and take it to your mom. She needs it. And so I would excitedly pick, I remember once picking a lady slipper, a pink lady slipper, and, Mom, this is for you. And I was so excited, and she kind of said, that's nice, honey, and put it in a little water, and I was like, can't you see how special this is? But anyway, so yes, those kind of voices, I think, were alive in me, and sometimes I would listen to them, and sometimes I would ignore them, so yeah. So I proceeded to follow what this voice inside of me was saying, which was to get a very clean bowl and put some pure water in it, and to walk out the front door 75 steps and then take a right and walk 43 steps to the right and then turn left. And anyway, I was guided right to the foot of a huge saguaro, but the saguaro had one of those arms that had been struck by lightning, and it was twisted right down. At eye level were like 5 big saguaro flowers in my face. And so I was guided to, cut one off and float it in the water. And then I just got a little notebook and I started writing down everything that was happening, objectively and subjectively, like what did the plant look like and what was growing around it, and how did that plant seem to interact with the other plants around it. And then I was also paying attention to what was happening like emotionally inside of me and writing all that down. And after about an hour or so, I was guided to take the flower out and lay it at the saguaro's feet. And I took that water inside. And I didn't know at the time that I needed to preserve it, but I found out pretty quickly that I needed to do that. And ultimately preserved it with some brandy. And then that was how my first flower essence was made.
And which one was, what do you call that? What's the first one?
The mother essence. So the mother essence is the level from which then you just take 2 drops of that and make a stock essence from it. And then
the one from the saguaro flowers, what was your first essence?
It was saguaro.
Okay, saguaro.
Yeah, saguaro flower essence. Yeah, yeah. And then on subsequent days, I had similar experiences where nature would kind of say, all right, go out there and, go to this little area of the desert. And then I would see, oh, there's a Pennsyljoya cactus, in my face. And I would be kind of told, make this flower essence and make that flower essence. And then I just kept doing it. And then every day I would take different essences. I would douse using a pendulum. And what I saw was that if I would write down what kind of state of being I was in at the beginning of the day, and then when I had the experience of being guided to make a particular flower essence, how did I feel at the end of the day? I would write all those things down. And then after a while, every day I would just douse for what would be the most beneficial flower essences for me today. And usually more than one would be indicated, and I would combine them together and take those essences throughout the day as a combination in which I discovered had this really beautiful synergy. What I thought an essence was working with, when I combined it with other essences, it would sometimes amplify that or make something even greater. And then I would try to capture whatever it was that I had experienced. And that's how I began making the flower essences. And I never set out to like make a flower essence company. That's not what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do was some level of healing and adjustment so that I could be living back in the country I was born in and not feel like a foreigner. So that was really my greater intention when I kept making the flower essences. But I discovered so many different layers of old, what do you call it? Garbage? Old patterns of imbalance, old ways.
Layers of, things that
Yeah.
are no longer working.
Yeah, it's like, well, this no longer works for me. And then I would become aware of what this is. And then I would watch as it would be released. And after many years, I think after about 7 years, I began to write about what I thought each essence was working with. And then I think it was, let's see, what year did I first write The Alchemy of the Desert? That's this book. I mean, it's a big book.
That's the one I've got. Yeah.
But this book took me quite a number of years before I dared write it, because I just didn't think I knew enough about each essence and how it was working, because I found that my own personal experience was a part of it, but people started coming to me and asking me to help them with flower essences. Like the first person who came probably came after I had been making essences maybe 6 months or so, and was this beautiful woman. She was 63 years old, and she came knocking on my door, same door that Gila woodpecker knocked on, and she said, "You're going to think I'm crazy." And I thought, yeah, I'm out here talking to plants, Gila woodpeckers and everything else. I don't think I'll think you're crazy. I said, "What?" And she said, "I've been going through this really intense situation, and I've been praying and asking for guidance, and my guidance told me to follow this little light." And so she got in the car and kept following this light, and she ended up at my house.
Wow.
And that was how I first started working with other people with them. And then I was really excited because I thought, oh, now I can research. It's not just my experience, but do other people have the same kind of experience? And then she brought she brought her daughter and her cousin and several other people, and it just kind of blossomed from there before I ended up synthesizing all that information into the first edition of The Alchemy of the Desert.
And did they see results? Things
Yes.
that those layers started to peel off and change for them?
Yes. Yes. And I began to see what were the commonalities, what were the common things, and what were the deeper issues that seemed to be addressed when I used a particular flower essence. And I realized that a lot of healing is all about our attitudes and our perceptions in life. And that those things, when we can shift and change some of those things, a lot of the issues that seem so important and so deep kind of just solve themselves. And so I learned a lot about just going to that level of healing in order to see if I could affect some change before I did some other, perhaps more drastic things that may or may not be able to affect that. But yeah, that's pretty much how I started.
It's amazing. Literally knock on your door.
Literally knocked on my door. Yeah. You know, it's like, I think after 43 years, I could say that when something's your destiny, it's going to unfold, whether you think you're ready or not. And many times we don't realize what our destiny is, even as we're living it. And that is really something to embrace. Yeah.
So what is the flower essence for realizing your destiny?
Well, that is one essence that I selected. Mary, you had asked, would I talk about a few essences that would be particularly relevant to this group, all of us who are sitting here, right here and now. And one of the essences that was indicated, I'm going to show you a picture of it. It is called Fulfilling Your Divine Mission Formula, which just happens to be something that was indicated for all of us here. It's
We're all called to action.
Yeah, yeah. We have a set of flower essences that are called the angelic awareness essences. Someone had come to me in probably the about 1985, I think. And she was going around the world and awakening people to the awareness that there is a realm of support which is the angelic realm. And it is energetic support that's available to us, but they can't help you if you don't ask for support. And that's like number one. You know, they can't like interfere or whatever. But if you say, okay, angelic realm, please help, I need some help here, then things happen, opportunities appear, and things unfold. Or you begin to realize that you are already in your divine mission, and you just have to learn that this is what this is and treat it that way. And so being fully who you are is your divine mission. And when you keep searching for some something outside to tell you what you're here for, then you miss the importance of the inner unfolding process of your own growth and evolution, which is perhaps your divine mission. But recognizing that that is important is really key to accepting that who you are and what you're doing is already important, and it's already something that is worthwhile, and that is helping other people. Even if you're not interacting with other people, your own vibration of your growth and evolution kind of goes out into the universe and helps collectively to anchor consciousness for other people as well. And I think fulfilling your divine mission formula really helps you to become more conscious of that fact and to embrace it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I think you were also going to tell us when, how to, I mean, I know there's more, and I do want you to share that with us, but how, I think we were also going to touch on how to ask those questions, how to dowse, how to discern the, so do you want to go through what was indicated for this group and then kind of go into the questions, or?
Well, I think first of all, I think it's worthwhile just to say a couple of things about how a flower essence works. Like, so, because it's not just some woo-woo thing, you know. What I came to understand pretty quickly as I made flower essences is that every plant on the earth embodies a universal principle or something that's always true. And when we have our limiting thoughts and beliefs, it kind of blocks us from seeing that particular universal truth. And the way flower essences work, they're kind of like a tuning fork. You know, if you strike a tuning fork, it will, and you hold it near a string that's tuned to the same note, it will begin to make that string resonate without you even touching it. So the vibration goes out and it strengthens the vibration of the string moving. And this really works. I was teaching a class at an applied physiology school once, and I said, oh, if you had a tuning fork and if you had a harp, and someone there had tuning forks and a harp, and we did it. And so you could see it. You struck the tuning fork and held it, and then it would begin to make the strings that were tuned to that note start vibrating. And that is how flower essences work with us. And the vegetal kingdom, the kingdom of nature, is there to support humanity and to help us grow and evolve and be a support. So, getting back to that idea of a universal principle, if you were, let's say that you decide, okay, I want to do this certain thing, and it feels like the right thing to do, but then you think, oh, I can't do that because this, because that, because X, because Y, because Z. And then the flower essence, as you take it, can help you to release those limiting thoughts. But in particular, one flower essence, which is called pencil cholla cactus, is a flower essence that can help you remember to surrender your personal will to the direction of universal will whenever you meet some kind of apparent obstacle. And so if you can remember to do that, yay. But if you can't, and pencil cholla cactus is indicated, it might help you to actually truly give up that personal will control to the direction of something greater that wants to support you. That's a kind of example of how the essence can work.
So if you had not gone outside that day and, listened to the woodpecker and communed with the cactus, and you were like, no, that's just too crazy. I need to, I don't know, look for a job or whatever. You know what I mean? That would be a perfect example of when to use that.
Yeah. Yeah. Or when you think, okay, I'm surrendering all my stuff and okay, it's all going to be all right, but it has to look like this or be like that, and then pencil cholla cactus can help you see how you really aren't surrendering, but you are instead expecting things to look a particular way and they're not looking that way. Right? I mean, it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pencil cholla cactus can help you also kind of find your way back to the path that you need to be on. And not just like, oh, run off in this direction or that direction or whatever direction catches your fancy, but get you kind of back onto the path. And when you're on that kind of path or going in that direction, something inside of you feels right. Something inside of you feels like this is the right thing to do. And you don't know why or how, but it just feels right. It's like, I'm going to take that street instead of this street today. And you do it, and maybe you find out later there was a horrible accident on the other street, or who knows what. But
and I think there's been so much that's going on, but I also believe that I don't think we're here by accident. And I think these are times when people really need to step. It's kind of like, now's the time, the clarion call has been sounded. And so maybe this is just like one of those perfect essences to help everybody, get into alignment and remember their path.
Yeah. Or go on the path even when you don't think it's your path, but it feels right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's I think it's really important when we use flower essences, before we select them, that we have a good intention. So what I mean by that is you need to know why you want some support. And okay, sometimes you can be really specific. You can say, oh my God, I'm driving myself nuts and I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Other times, you have no idea what you need. You don't know what's going on. And that can be your intention. I need to get out of this space where I am not clear. I need to understand something about what the next step in my path is, and that can be a clear intention. So even if you think you don't know what you need, that can be your intention. But
Is there an essence specifically for clarity?
oh, there is, most assuredly. Aha. Let me see if yeah, there is a flower essence. I find it's really helpful to show the picture because the essence itself speaks loudly. Claret cup hedgehog cactus is exactly that flower essence. That's for clarity and focus. And when you see these flowers blooming, it's so amazing how it just looks clear and sharp and crisp. And it, I think, speaks louder than anything else in terms of clarity. And for those who are in the Tucson area, it's pretty common, although, yeah, and it'll grow up a little higher elevation than here in the Tucson area as well. So it's a amazing essence. And it's also the kind of essence that you can use when you say, okay, I'm just going to answer this one email and then I'm going to go do X, Y, Z. And before you know it, you've spent 2 hours answering emails or surfing the web or whatever. And, the essence really helps you meter out your own energy with more discernment on your part. So that you can actually stay with what you really want to be doing. Yeah.
Wow, that's all sounds really good. Okay, so with flower essences, we want to have I guess, a clear intention.
Yeah.
Whether that's we need support in X, Y, and Z, or we're not sure what we need, but we need help. We want the next step.
I find that, okay, knowing what you want to ask support with, even if it's, clarity, and to invoke the divas of the desert. In other words, to ask for support from the unseen realm that actually work through each of the plants. And so that is called a diva, D-E-V-A, not D-I-V-A, but diva. It's a Sanskrit word that means basically the spirit of something. And each plant has a universal spirit, is what I have found. And so when you invoke that energy of all of the divas from the desert, and you have an intention, then you are in a better shape, I think, to call forth with your dowsing what it is that you need for this particular time. And it's also really good in your intention to say, for this time, what is most highly beneficial for me at this time? And that puts a time element into your selection, and it puts who it's for into your selection, and it makes greater specificity when you are dowsing. And this book, The Art and Technique of Using Flower Essences, it's a small book. It took
Is
longer
that the
for
claret hedgehog cactus on front?
No, it
Oh,
has another flower that I'm going to talk about in a minute called spineless prickly pear cactus. But yeah, so that walks you through all the stages in order to select flower essences intuitively, which is what I like. I like selecting them intuitively because if I use my mind will go off into all the stuff, all the distracting, this story of, drama and blah, blah, blah. And yet, very often, the core or the root of what you want to work with is underneath that. And all the drama is kind of enticing you to stay focused on the surface.
be distracted. We have a question.
Yeah.
Kathy says, when you say the plants have a universal spirit, do you mean that there's an oversoul for each species
Yes.
that you can converse with or learn from?
Exactly.
So would you like
Exactly.
to talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. I call that attunement, and or that process of connecting with that spirit, with the spirits. And that's what we do in the flower essence therapy course, which I teach. It's a 16-week course. The spring edition started last week, and you can attend it's all on Zoom, and you can attend live, or each class is recorded. And the registration is open until March 24th. So people can still join if you want. But anyway, and some people who are here have taken
Yeah,
it,
or in that
I
class. Yes, I'm
see.
seeing some things in the chat. They're talking about how much they love it, and it's very cool.
Yeah. But that process of attunement means at one-ment. And so one thing that we practice every single week is attuning, and we attune to different plants. And then we each have our own experience in attempting to connect with that spirit of the particular plant, and then understanding what that means for us. How did that touch you personally? And it's so amazing, like when you attune in a group, and there are all these similarities. Everybody has a different experience, but there are similarities that the attuning with that plant makes obvious. Yeah. So, does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that sounds like there's lots of layers that you can connect with the essence, with the plant, with the spirit of the plant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one thing I have to say, I have like the Alchemy of the Desert, which has a chapter on each essence. This is its fourth edition, and I wish I would like a fifth edition now, please, because the longer I work with each of the plants, the deeper my understanding is about how they actually work. And so as that evolves, then I always want to make little changes in the book and, just kind of become more conscious of how connecting with that particular plant energy can help us grow and evolve.
So you've been doing this for how many years, would you say?
43.
Yeah, just a few. So yeah, so there's like this deeper relationship and understanding,
Yeah.
this yeah, resonance with the plants. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when we're selecting our flower essences, we want to have a clear intention
Yes.
of what we want support with,
Yes.
and then what else would you recommend?
Invoking the Devic realm of the plants, which is very easy to do. Very, very easy to do. You just be quiet for a minute or two and just consciously say, I invite the divas of the Arizona deserts to be here with us or here with me and help guide me with my finding what I need to help myself, what would be most beneficial for my growth and evolution with this particular issue. And it works.
Yeah, well, that sounds very clear.
And then you select the essences.
So you just douse. You
Just douse.
take the list of your essences and douse.
Or you can take the box, if you already have the essences, you can take, go through the boxes of them and just lay your hand over a box, yes or no, and do a process of elimination. Or you can take, as you said, a list and go through them and just,
And if you
yeah.
don't have a book, you can go to your website and all the essences are listed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the website is always, Camilo, my husband, is the webmaster, and he does updating all the time. And so it keeps
Evolving.
growing and growing. Yeah, yeah.
So once someone determines what essence would be most beneficial for a particular situation at this time,
Yeah.
then what?
Then, and usually there's more than one essence indicated. So you can combine those essences together to use them. So I usually just take, here's a stock bottle of Mariposa Lily, for just happened to be the one, and just I take a little dropper full of each essence, and then you can put it in some water and drink it throughout the day, and just keep taking it. Boop boop boop.
Do you need to douse how many dropperfuls you need or how many times a day?
You can do that, or you can just use a dropperful, each time that you use it. Either way.
Is it better in water?
Not necessarily. You can put them in your hand and do this and then put them anywhere on your body. As long as you get them in your auric field, because there are vibration, they will work. So when we use them with animals, for instance, I will put them on my palm and then run my palm down their spine. Works wonderfully. And so with your own self, you can do that too.
I was just going to ask about animals. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, so yeah, you could just run it through their fur or, yeah, someone's saying their cat loves them. So, yeah.
I've worked with cats, dogs, birds, horses. What else? Maybe some other pet, but that's all I'm thinking of at the moment. And they always work
Yeah.
really well.
Um, is there a shelf life for plant and flower essences?
The it's on the bottles, but it's about 8 years for one of those little bottles. They are preserved with some brandy, and the brandy is gluten free, so it's absolutely gluten free, and they keep quite well and quite long.
Um, let's see. Can you put them in a spray bottle, as she cannot tolerate alcohol?
Definitely. Yeah. You can just put them in, like if you have one of those atomizers like you squirt plants with or something,
Hmm.
or even a little smaller atomizer, you could just put 7 drops in there, give it a little shake, and then mist yourself, and works perfectly fine that
Wow, so
way.
you don't even really have to ingest. It can just
No.
be a misting, just
Yes.
anything in your auric field.
Yes.
So I guess
Yes.
works for people of all ages.
People of all ages, yes. I can remember we have I don't think I have one right here. We have these little travel kits, and in the travel kits, there's a little tiny atomizer. And I used to, fly all over the world, and, I would like a 32-hour flight to Brazil. I was on once, and I was sitting next to, he was probably somewhere between 16, 17 years old, a young guy. And I kept misting myself with the essences. And he didn't say anything, but when we made our final landing in Rio, he turned to me and he said, I don't know why. Usually this trip is so intense, and this time it was so easy. I didn't say anything, but I really thought that he had the effects of the travel essences, which I have in the travel kit a little recommendation when you're on a long trip. You could try putting this combination together, and it really works. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even realize you had a travel lessons kit. That
It
that
has a
sounds like that'd be very helpful.
Yeah, it's a little box with 7 essences in it, and you can use the essences like if you go into a hotel room, you just spray certain essences that are in the kit, and the kit has a little how do you call a little pamphlet in it that says, oh, to clear a room here, use this, or for visiting your mother-in-law, use this. I made that up, but
Yeah.
whatever. There are recommendations in there for
Well, and I guess the
travel.
bottles are so small, they're not, they don't, they're under the 3 ounces, so it's
Yes.
not an issue.
Yeah. It's not. You can take a whole travel kit, and it's not an issue in the strange world of
Travel.
travel.
Yeah. Okay, that's great to know. What else do we need to know about flower essences?
Well,
You're a wealth of information. So let me ask you this. What are some of the most impactful stories that either you've experienced or maybe some of your students or clients have shared with you that were just profound experiences or changes that they experienced as a result of the flower essences?
I think, well, I probably have one for every essence after 43 years, but um, but that's a really good question. There's one flower essence. When I teach in other countries, I have an interpreter in or a simultaneous translator, one or the other. An interpreter is someone who you say a sentence and they say the sentence in the other language, right? Or a simultaneous translator sits in a booth and talks while you're talking and simultaneously translates it. But I had I remember being in Spain, and the simultaneous translator got sick, and all of a sudden there was no translator, and one other person who had never translated before said, "Okay, I'll try," and so he went up to the simultaneous translator's booth, but I I said to him, "Don't worry, I'm going to speak slowly, and you can do consecutive translation, and no problem." But I want to hear, and I always had a little, like an
Earbud.
AirPod,
Hmm.
so I could hear him. And I said, "But before you go, here, take this big bottle of water, and in it I put fishhook cactus and the crisis a desert emergency formula." Now, the crisis formula is a really calming essence. It just, no matter what's happening, what disaster or drama or whatever, it just calms you down. And the fishhook cactus is a flower essence for all issues about speaking or communicating. So, when you're afraid, you're afraid to say something to somebody because you're afraid how they're gonna react to it, or if you have to do a public speaking engagement and you're like, "Oh God, I can't," So anyway, I put those two essences in this big bottle of water, and I said, "Here, take that up with you and keep drinking that, keep sipping away at it." Well, after, he nervously would translate, and then after about 10 minutes, he said in English to me, "Is it possible I'm getting high off of this stuff?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "I feel so calm." And after that, he translated for 2 days,
Wow.
and he had never done translation before. And yet it was this kind of miraculous, easeful time that he had, which was wonderful.
Wow. So we have a question. What was the essence did you say for the speech?
I'll show you, right? Yeah, here it is. It is a little cactus. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. Yeah, that's why it didn't work. It's a called fishhook cactus. And this is an essence that helps us to realize that there's only something to be gained and not lost through communicating. And usually, if you have something that you have to say to somebody and you're afraid of how they're going to respond, and so you keep your mouth shut, with fishhook cactus, if you use it, then there is this kind of inner realization of like, okay, I'm just going to do it. And so you do it. And so and usually it's about taking the risk and opening your mouth and saying something that's really the issue. And with fishhook cactus, you realize that, okay, I only have something to gain here by opening my mouth. Because if I don't open my mouth, there are other consequences, right? So it just helps you trust and risk in communication. And it is a great essence that helps you if you are feeling very defensive when somebody says something, and so that can help you see, oh, where's that defensiveness coming from? So it, once again, helps you clarify something in communication. It's one of the top selling essences that we have. Well, I had a consecutive translator in Brazil that her voice always had a very unusual timbre to it, is the only way I can describe it. And after I worked with her the first time, she wrote to me and said, oh, they've found out that I have a problem with 2 of my vocal cords, and I think there are 4, so like half of her vocal cords had some kind of problem, and there was nothing they could do about it. And they told her, you're probably going to lose your voice. Not probably, you had like 80% chance of losing your voice. And she said, is there an essence I could take? And I'm like, yeah, well, I don't usually recommend flower essences and say they're going to have a physiological effect. They can have, but that's not my area of expertise. But I said to her, just use fishhook cactus. I then went back to Brazil. It was only like about 2 months later. And I said to the organizer, oh, who's going to translate? And she goes, oh, the same person. And I said, what? And she said, yeah, she's okay. She's still talking. So I went back to Brazil, and she said that the doctors said that she is even speaking still is a miracle, because she did not have all of her vocal cords in use. And she went on to translate with me for some years after that.
Wow.
So I don't know, did fishhook cactus have some kind of effect? I think it did, but I can't prove it, so I don't know. But that was one of those amazing, amazing stories.
Yeah, so somebody was asking what is the calming essence that you recommended?
That is called Crisis. Let me see. Oh, I forgot to open that. Let me. Composite. Okay. It's not lined up here. I didn't open it. Okay, it is. This is the most common essence that we use, that we sell. I mean, everybody uses Crisis Formula at some time.
So it's called Crisis Formula.
Yeah, here it is. Yeah, it's called the Crisis Desert Emergency Formula. Oop. There it is.
So it's
And
a
it
combination
has,
of 5 essences.
yeah, it's a combination of 5 different flower essences, and it is an essence that helps bring you back to the present moment, because it's usually when we project ourselves into the future, or we think about something from the past, then we get in trouble. But the more we can stay in the present, then we're like, okay, everything is fine right here and now. And so it's very, very calming, and it is an essence that can just help you find what you need to find for yourself in any given moment.
Wow, something to put in your emergency kit for sure.
It's in the travel kit. It's in that little 7 essence travel kit. Yeah. Yeah.
So would you compare that to like Rescue Remedy, but in a
Well,
different way?
um, I don't know. I don't know. I would imagine that it probably has a similar kind of effect, but um, I I don't have experience with rescue remedies, so it's hard for me to say. But it is the one essence that I have. Like, I always carry a little bottle in my purse. There's one there, and there's, one here, one there, and I'm usually ending up giving it away to people in different situations, so having to replenish it all the time. So, yeah, that's the big granddaddy of the flower essences, we could say.
See, I think we had a question. Yeah, people are saying that travel kit is wonderful. And if we can assume that our thoughts and feelings affect our body, then the translator had issues around communication, then flower essences would be able to hear that. And someone else is talking about how much they love fairy duster.
Oh, fairy duster. Oh, those are blooming. Right now, our desert is blooming like it's the end of April or May. I mean, because it's so warm here. Fairy dusters, they can bloom almost any time in the year. Here's a fairy
Oh,
duster.
somebody's saying she's considering spraying the crisis formula around her office to calm and soothe her colleagues.
You will not be the first person to do that. I can guarantee you that. And um, people have, many people have done that. I have selected flower essences for different kind of group situations, and one of those are like being in an office situation. How do we keep everything calm? you know, misting with crisis formula, that can be a way to do that. Yeah.
Well, and as dowsers, we could, have that clear intention. What essence would be the most beneficial to have a, um, compatible workplace that, there's ease of communication and productivity and flow, or whatever your intention would be.
Yes. Actually, here in Tucson, let's see, I can't give away exactly which police department, but there was at one time a police department that used to mist the witness interview room with the crisis formula just to keep everything calmed down.
That
So,
is a very amazing thing to think that they would be utilizing that. I love that.
yeah, yeah. That was a number of years ago. And that particular person who facilitated that ultimately became a judge. And so I don't think they're probably still doing that, but
They
it,
might miss the courtroom before they get started.
yeah. So, but fairy duster is this flower.
Mm.
It's so pretty. It looks like a little powder puff, and looks so delicate and nice. Fairy duster is another one of those flower essences that I find does have a physiological effect on the nervous system. And so fairy duster, I believe that that is also one that's in the travel kit, if I'm not mistaken. And it's it soothes and stabilizes the nervous system and the way energy moves from the outer world into your conscious awareness. It comes through the nervous system, and fairy duster is just really calming, and it is very grounding. It's a great flower essence if you are, let's say, you're overloaded with information, and it's just like, oh, I went to this seminar for the whole day and I'm just out of it, and fairy duster will calm all that down so you can integrate and, just soothe and ground you. And it is also like a lot of newborn babies sometimes get too stimulated being out in public. And so, well, whether they're a newborn or even a toddler or whatever, they just like, oh my God, so excited and then fairy duster helps calm them down. With my own goddaughter, I used to mist her when it got close to bedtime, because she would, like, as soon as her energy needs to relax down, she would rev up, and so I would just mist her. And she would run into the spray and then she'd get calm.
Oh, that's so cute. Somebody was asking about mixing flower essences with essential oils in a spray. What
You
are
can
your
do
thoughts on
that,
that?
and there are people that have done that. I mean, I kind of played with that a little bit at one point, some decades ago. I found, though, for myself, that for some people, essential oils can be a little overwhelming. And so I did not go deeper into using the essential oils. But if that is an arena that you are using, yes, you can combine them together. Yeah.
I guess the flower essences are just have a more gentle frequency
Yeah.
for most people. So, do we want to take a question if somebody needs some help formulating a question on what the best essence for them would be?
Sure.
Do we have anybody that wants to
Sonia has her
volunteer?
hand.
Okay. Sonia, you can unmute yourself if you like.
Um, I love all of Cynthia's work. I think that her work and her books are like Bibles to me, living in Australia. But I would like you to mention, Cynthia, about your reference book, because I just have clients come and they say, "Oh, I've got so much overwhelm," and so then I'll just go into the book and yeah, show that one, Cynthia, and I'll just go, "Do you think it's this essence, this one, this one, this one?" And they go, "Oh my God, I can't believe that's just it." So I'll leave it to you, Cynthia. It's a brilliant book.
This is an expanded cross-reference book. It actually there is a simple cross-reference in the back of the big book, but this book is called the expanded cross-reference, and you can look up something like open-minded. Okay, so that's one entry. Maybe somebody needs to be a little more open-minded, and this actually gives 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different essences, but it tells you what the difference between them is and how, like Foothills Palo Verde would be different than the emotional awareness formula for that particular issue, if you will. So this is really great for if somebody says, well, I need a little help with blah, blah. You can just look it up here and
then douse the different options that are connected to that intention.
Yeah.
So if someone comes to see you, like, or comes to see a flower essence practitioner, what walk us through what that process is like.
Sure. That process, well, okay. I firmly believe that there is an intelligence inside of each one of us that knows when we can change something. And when I work with a client, sometimes the client actually fills out a form and says, this is what I want to work with, but sometimes they don't, and that's okay too. But what I do when I work with a client is I ask to find the most beneficial flower essence for this client at this time. And then I go through the essences and I use a pendulum and I douse. Then the client calls and we talk. And it doesn't matter if you've selected them before they called or after they called, it works. And then I give my client room to say, just to talk about, what it is the person wants to work with. Some people spend a lot of time talking, and that's okay. Other people spend less time talking, but whatever that amount of time that's perfect for that person passes, and then we start discussing the flower essences that were indicated for the person. Usually, when I say, oh, fairy duster came up, for you, and start talking about it, the person would say, oh, I forgot to tell you. Yes, that's an issue. And it works. So there is more or less discussion, and then I talk about what essences came up for the person. And I like to be sure to provide quality listening, just listening. In the same way that I listen to the plant, I listen to the person who is in front of me, and just give them that space, because they themselves know what they need when they see it. Or they don't, and then they take the essence and then say, oh, that's what I needed. Yeah.
So would someone take an entire bottle? Like, how do you know when something's complete?
Well, what I do is I douse for a cycle time. So I ask to find, what the length of time is for that cycle for that client. And it's usually, I find, somewhere between 3 and 5 weeks. Although sometimes it can be 2 weeks. But I always tell my client, use it as long as it feels right for you to use it. But the cycle time could be like 3 weeks, and I do douse for that. Yeah.
And then will people follow up and say, hey, I've had these changes, or I noticed this, or...
Yeah. And if you take good notes, and that's part of what's in the art and technique of using flower essences, is how to, because you could have this big issue and you go, oh my God, I can't stand it. And then when you use a flower essence, very often you even forget that that's what you came to work with initially, right? Because it's not an issue anymore.
Yeah.
So that's why I scribble down little notes, and then I can say, oh, how was it when your mother-in-law visited? And they go, oh my God, I forgot, that's why I wanted essences, And then they tell you a story of how it worked, usually.
So is there multiple essences indicated typically, or and I think somebody had a question, how many essences can you, I guess, effectively do at one time?
I find it's usually somewhere between 3 and 5, but when I first started using essences, there were times I would get 13 essences for myself, But combining the essences together makes a new vibration. And so it's more important what that vibration is and how it matches the person's need, right? So
I guess, do you ask if these need to be done separately or in combination?
No, I assume that if they are indicated at that time with that intention, that they should be combined together and used together. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. There was a question in the chat. Let's see. Do you observe similarities in essences for people affected by physical maladies such as COVID or long COVID?
Ask the question again. Do I notice similarities?
Do you observe similarities in essences for people affected by physical maladies such as COVID or long COVID? So,
It's not necessarily, I don't always, no, I think each person's thing is their thing. In other words, I've worked with people with long COVID, and there are, of course, their symptomology can be the same, like exhaustion or, a lack of the ability to have any interest in anything or to do anything. But I think I haven't noticed that, oh, there's one essence for that. You see, there is an essence that is amazing for exhaustion.
what is that?
Yeah, let me show you a picture of it. It's a cactus.
I think everyone could probably use a little more energy.
That's one that it's a really good one to know about. And I think that's in the travel kit too. It's called woven spine pineapple cactus. And this is an essence that helps you to have revitalization at the core of your being.
Ooh.
So it's like it's great after surgery. It's great after, a long, exhausting trip. I mean, this is one of the essences that I always travel with because I would, take a 25-hour trip and the next day have to give a workshop or something. So, and
You think
if
that works for burnout?
yeah, yeah, it can work for burnout. It can work for
Childbirth?
childbirth, after childbirth. It can, but I think one of the ways that it works is that it helps you learn how to pace yourself for where you're at too, because things like long COVID, you can have one part of a day where you start to feel good and maybe you do too much, and so then you have to learn, oh, wait, I have to be more judicious with how I am using the energy I have, But that's a really good essence for kind of,
Yeah, for everybody to have in their
yeah,
toolkit.
yeah,
So this has been so fascinating. I think we could keep going on and on. But we need to wrap up. So I guess parting words, wisdom, and then also, do you have classes other than the class you talked about, or like some other things that you want our audience to know about?
well, if you want to know when there are any kinds of events or classes, you can subscribe to the free newsletter. I do from time to time flower essence circles where we come together and a group of people ask for support, and I do like little mini selecting of essences in that event. And as I said, the main teaching course is the Flower Essence Therapy course, which is open for registration until March 24th.
So next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the classes are all recorded, so you can either attend live or you can watch the videos. Most people end up coming live. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. The just to recap, you said you doused essences for a group, and so I know one was the pencil choya. What 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 were the other ones?
oh, okay. Yes, we never did get back to that.
Was it the hedgehog?
No, one of them was spineless prickly pear cactus, which is on the cover of the Art and Technique of Using Flower Essences. And spineless prickly pear cactus is an essence that helps us to become much more comfortable with being vulnerable. So whenever there are healing changes that are afoot, if we are not vulnerable to universal energy, then we can't receive it. And spineless prickly pear cactus is all about helping us know that there is deep strength in vulnerability, because it helps you to know what you are vulnerable to, which is actually to the universal creator energy that started us in the first place, and that you don't need anything outside of yourself than just yourself in order to be. And spineless prickly pear cactus helps anchor that reality in us. So that was one of the essences. Another essence, strangely enough, that came up for this group was Moontime Harmony Formula, which very obviously it's a flower essence that helps with to balance like a woman's menstrual cycle, but it's much more than that. Moontime Harmony Formula helps us realize that everything has a cycle. Even everything that we're going through right now is a cycle, and it's not going to be like this forever. And Moontime Harmony Formula is an essence that helps us know that and be more comfortable with the cycle that is happening right now.
And we have a new moon today.
Yeah. Woo.
So those three essences were what came up for our group.
Yeah.
So that's great. So if people want to purchase flower essences, they can go to your website, desertalchemy.com, and
Oh, and there is a wonderful little gift. If you purchase from now until the end of March, with any order that you purchase, you will receive a free bottle of the Essence of the Year, which is a flower essence called Lavender Wand Penstemon. And on our website, there is a video. It's like an hour-long video that I presented in January. Every year I select, or I ask to find a flower essence of the year, and this year it is Lavender Wand Penstemon. So with every order, or with your order from now until the end of March, you will get a free bottle of that. And you can watch the video to learn more about it. But it's a very timely flower essence.
That's wonderful. So now, do we need to put a special code? Do we put Lone Star
Yeah, you need
Dowsers? What do we put?
just add in the note field that you attended the Lone Star Dowsers presentation, and that will be included in your order.
Wow,
And you
what a
have to
wonderful
put that
gift.
in there or they won't know.
Okay. All right. So in the notes, we'll just put that Lone Star Dowsers. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Just
okay.
put that.
Wow. Thank you. That's wonderful. And if you don't know, the essences are pretty affordable. They're $13 a
Yeah,
bottle. And if you put the drops into water, your essences last longer. I mean, or they go
yeah,
further, I'll say.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much, Cynthia. Really appreciate you sharing your wisdom.
I really appreciate the opportunity to come together with this wonderful vibration of all of you.
Yeah, yeah. We have a really great group of folks that tune in, and thanks for bringing in your folks and to all the people who are watching this in the future. Yes. Yeah, we're very appreciative and yeah, please subscribe.
Yay!
All right, I'm going to turn up our recording. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.